For troubleshooting tips on the Evolution Elite, we're going to start with the E10 error. That's a high limit error. First of all, the high limit typically trips when the fry pot's turned on with no oil or enough crumbs pile up in the bottom of the fryer to cause the high limit to trip. On the electric fryer, you're going to want to let the fryer cool for about 20 minutes before resetting. And then you're going to take an Allen wrench or a small screwdriver and push in that hole on the hub. Push it back, and usually the high limit's going to kind of click and then it resets. Before you turn the fryer on, always make sure that your oil is up to your fill line. On a gas fryer, to reset the high limit, again, you're going to want to let the fryer cool for about 20 minutes. Then you open the door at the bottom of the fryer and then push the button up underneath each control board. And keep in mind, even on an electric and a gas fryer, each vat has its own high limit. The next troubleshooting tip is when the filter pump motor doesn't run. So on an electric fryer, it's very critical to make sure your power cords are all plugged in securely behind the fryer and no breakers are tripped. Then, if the filter pump motor still doesn't run, make sure your fryer's off. And then in the back of your fryer on both a gas and electric fryer, you're going to take a screwdriver and just push in on the red button that's on your filter pump motor as shown. You should push in until you hear a click. It's going to snap when it does reset. And then in the front of your fryer, then you can turn the fryer back on and then see if you can especially use step number 5 on your filter menu, fill pot from drain pan. That's going to just bring the oil up from the drain pan back to the fry pot. Another troubleshooting tip is slow filtration. Slow filtration, a couple things to check with that. When it comes back, oil comes back up slowly and it says, "Is pot filled?" Press no to "Is pot filled?" It's going to cycle the filter pump motor for another 30 seconds. But things to check once the fryer cools and the drain pan cools is you want to check and make sure the O-rings are in good shape, because we can suck air through there and it's going to pump slowly. Make sure that the filter pad has been scraped and is clean. Or if it's first thing in the morning, make sure we put a fresh filter pad in that and underneath the fryer. Another troubleshooting tip is when you get the check jib message on the control. The fryer's trying to top off from the jib down here, but it's unable to pump oil from the jib. So the first thing you do with check jib, obviously, is just to make sure we have oil in here. But if you do have oil in your jib, then the next things you'd want to do is pull that out. Normally, I just recommend separating the jib and then reconnecting the jib until you hear it snap and click together. And usually I'll try pulling on it after that to make sure it doesn't separate. A lot of times that's connected, but it's not snapped and fully engaged. If you have an overfilled drain pan where you filter and oil spills on the floor, it's a sign that all the oil was not removed from the drain pan during the last filtration. Things to check is similar to slow filtration, where you'd want to check your filter pad and make sure it's been scraped off and cleaned. You'd want to check the O-rings to make sure they've been replaced within the last 90 days. They're in good shape, they're not flat, and they're not missing. A couple other things you'd want to do is make sure the drain pan is assembled correctly. So all of those things need to be checked, and then normally it might be a time to train some team members, and if the fryer comes up and says, "Is pot filled?" just have them respond no to that message. After all the oil comes out of the drain pan, we should just see air bubbles. A couple error codes to talk about is the E21 error. And E21 and E22 are very similar, so I'll cover them both at this time. Both of those, E21 and E22, are usually on an electric fryer when the plugs start to slide out of the receptacle, or the plugs, let's say the fryer got pulled out for cleaning the night before, and then the plugs never got pushed back in, or we have a breaker tripped. E21 is slow recovery, and E22 means that the plug is completely out, and it's just going to tell you to check the plug. So pull the fryer out, make sure the plugs are in the receptacles, and make sure no breakers are tripped. E20D is a gas-related error, and an E20D means check your gas supply. You'd want to check your gas connection, which means a quick disconnect, and then make sure that your gas valve is in the on position, where the valve handle is parallel with your gas hose. If you refer to your owner's manual, go to the troubleshooting section, and you'll find all of this information and much more. And again, if you do need service, if you can't resolve this or you need troubleshooting help, call the 1-800-417-8405 number, and then we'll be able to assist you possibly get you so you don't have to have a service call, or get you service if you're in need of service.